like, you're not scheduled yet. We noticed. All right, now we're live. Ooh, my stomach. Let me log in on here on YouTube, because sometimes the comments come up slow.
Okay.
Hey, everyone coming in.
Hello, everyone.
I'm gonna let a little bit more people come in. Hey, Annette. Hey, Mama 12. How's everyone? Hey, hey, hey.
Oh, I'm slow. I was like, why can't I see the comments? It's on private chat.
Yeah, on the side, it should give you it should say comments on the one side.
I got it. Thank you.
Hey, everyone. So while we wait for everyone to come in, I do want to ask a question. Has anyone seen the movie Cuties? Let me know in the comments if you watched the movie, and if you didn't watch the movie, why? You know, I'm gonna put it in the comments too. All right. Make that one the main one. You haven't heard of it? I want to watch it today. Okay. Ouch. It's a movie that's on Netflix. So if you have Netflix, huh?
I said it's a hot topic today. Everyone is talking about it.
It's a really hot topic. So hey, Mommy on the Budget. Like, do I got a piece of hair in my mouth? Hey, Miracle Mindset. Congratulations.
Oh, congratulations. The first one. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Mommy on a Budget. You watched it? Hey, Sabrina. Ooh. Yes, you watched it? Okay, cool. What was your thoughts on it, Mommy on a Budget? Just hearing and seeing what people were saying, I couldn't watch 11-year-olds talking about oral sex. 11-year-olds lying to boys. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Lying to boys about their age, putting pics of their crotch on social media. I can. Okay? Hey, Miss Lene. So today we're talking about the movie Cuties. It's on Netflix if you didn't watch it. And my question was, why did you choose not to watch the movie? There's no right or wrong answer. Don't think that it's a good or a bad thing that you watched it. Mama 12, don't do that. No, I'm kidding. Hey, Sydney. Oh, my stomach. I'm eating French fries, if y'all were wondering. French fries with hot sauce, like
Oh
always.
my. We get that heartburn.
It don't give me heartburn now.
I used to always get it with muffin all the time. But she came out with a whole head of hair.
Oh, that's true.
I haven't had one bald baby yet.
Me neither. The hair just falls out after a while.
Like, I don't want to get pregnant, period. I'm done.
I'm done too. The kids in real life do and say way worse. I'm 23, and I know many of kids who do way worse. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
An 11-year-old's working for a grown ass man to get out of trouble and for him to enjoy it is a no-go for me. Okay. I didn't watch it because I didn't want to watch little girls being abused. There's way too much going on in these streets. Okay. So the reason I was asking you these questions is because I wanted to get your idea on it. So my thing is, what are your thoughts about social media in preteens and teens? On average, kids nowadays get their phones like around the age of 8. So what are your thoughts on social media and kids in general? I want to talk to y'all. Me and Madeline, we want to talk to y'all. We want y'all to be engaged and have a conversation with y'all. So before we actually give our opinions and thoughts and stuff, we want to see what you guys think and what your thoughts are.
And it's no judgment here, because at the end of the day, I feel like we do it shaming one another.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and our young girls are seeing this, so we have to set the narrative and change some things. So I'm not going to take anything personal. If you don't agree with what I'm saying,
Yeah,
I can respect it.
same with like you guys. Like if you guys don't agree or you have your opinions, don't think we're judging in any way, because none of us is perfect. We think we know what the hell we're doing and realize that we not. Mommy on the Budget says, like, people are up in arms about them twerking, but have yelled TikTok or any other social media pages. I'm over it.
That comment right there. Yes, all of that.
I think kids should not be on the internet.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Sydney Webb, first of all, I'm not giving no 8-year-old a phone. I know that's right. But I mean, that's just the statistics. That's what the survey says. So that's the average age that kids get a cell phone. And so, like, I want to know what your thoughts. I gave my kids a cell phone after that. I mean, you guys know they just had a phone within the last year. They've had phones prior to that. But, with behaviors and, consequences and stuff, they have taken it away. They've gotten it back. They've gotten tablets. They had internet access at school. Here they have internet access. So
I've also gave my children, well, my oldest, a phone at an early age. I want to say she was like 9 or 10.
Okay.
And I gave it to her out of pure, I don't know, just I seen everyone else doing it. So I was like, okay, well, I might as well give her a phone too. Like, I felt like her having a phone in my mind made me feel good about the way I was parenting at the moment. Do I regret it? Absolutely.
I regret it too. Selena had a phone since she started school in kinder. When the pandemic started, I had let her get an Instagram, and a month later I lost that privilege. She wasn't ready for it, and she showed me that.
And that's the best thing,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion.
Before they are allowed to go on social media, you need to sit them down and show them the proper way to use it and not get caught up. That is true.
I also feel like the kids, they teach one another stuff too.
Yeah. The angles that they chose when they were dancing were very inappropriate. I agree. Even then, you need to keep an eye on them because they go behind your back and do stuff. My kids are grown, and I'm just now finding out stuff they snuck and did. Yep.
Girl, how about all the different Instagram pages they have and you only know about the one account?
It's okay to have a phone, just not the internet. Okay, I agree. I agree with that in a sense. I see what. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying, Miss Lene. I know what you mean. Never mind. Don't pregnancy brain over here. My kids get phones at 8, and we have a talk about everything. It's crazy succeeding in it, and they're going to be exposed when we are another. It's better that you do it then and than the world. That's true. They need a phone for emergency. Yeah. You're right. No, my mind, girl. I was thinking something completely different. My brain is on like the opposite spectrum. Selena is now 12. She's been asking for Instagram since elementary, which I was not going to do. We tried it. She couldn't handle it, so we're going to try again in middle school. Okay. Oh, in high school. Okay. Yeah. See, I regret giving my kids phones as well. I gave it to them only because of like everybody, including family members, was like, well, everybody's doing it. Why not? And I didn't grow up, and it is weird because the person, like, that was my aunt that told me that. And it was weird because when I was growing up with her, she was just like, no. Like, there was like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. No. The only difference was is that I was allowed to have AIM. I was allowed to have AOL, like an account. I was allowed to have access to Yahoo chats, AIM chats. So back then, you know, instead of it being on the phone and social media, it still was a computer, and it was still internet. Okay.
And I was the opposite. I wasn't allowed to be on electronics. I did not have an AIM or an AOL. I wasn't allowed to do anything except for go outside occasionally. My household was very strict. Very.
Yeah, so the reason why I wanted to do this live was because I see a lot of people kind of like bashing the movie, and I don't necessarily want to go into too much details because I honestly think people should watch it. And even as uncomfortable as I was in certain scenes, I felt like it was an eye opener, and I felt like it was a great way for me to take a step back and look at myself as a parent and look at myself about the things that I denied and didn't take accountability for. So this kind of makes it an open door kind of conversation, a topic that we need to have about what's going on with our kids today. Whether if we like it or not, we need to be uncomfortable as moms because we need to advocate together about what's going on into today's society.
And I agree with that, which is why, I supported the movie, not necessarily the theatrics, but I supported the message. And once I got away from the popular opinion and following the masses, that's when I said, well, let me watch this movie. Because from my background working in the correctional field, being around these predators, I already had an idea, but I wanted to see the hypothetical child perspective that was being portrayed. That's what I was interested in. And so once I took out the theatrics and really listened to the message, my mind was blown. Not to mention, I was already experiencing some of the stuff that was going on in the film. And that's, had I seen that film prior to the stuff that was going on in my home, I probably would have been able to handle the situation better and possibly prevented it.
I agree. I've seen trailers, I've seen posters, I've seen people talk about it before it even dropped on Netflix, and I was even curious then to know what it was about, based off of the narrative that Netflix chose to go in marketing the movie. Do I feel like it's inappropriate and uncomfortable? correct. I was very uncomfortable in that movie. But do I feel like it was needed for me as a parent to look at it and be like, holy crap, like this is what's really going on in our communities. This is what's really going on and on social media and in schools and stuff. I don't know if anybody's seen any other movies. There was a movie on Lifetime where a girl, she was, I forgot what it was called, but I've watched it when I was in high school, and they were doing oral sex, and she ended up getting syphilis, and she didn't want to tell nobody, and it ended up being an outbreak in the high school over syphilis.
And Pregnancy Pack too. That movie
Pregnancy Pack. In the 90s, there was a movie called Kids, and it kind of was similar to Cuties, where they were following kids around and like vlog style before vlogging really was a thing. And it was showing kids, having sex, specific kids' stories. Like one kid, he was like 15 or 16, and he was like a sex addict at the time. All he cared about was sex. That's all he cared about. At the end of the movie, come to find out, he was giving people HIV. And that was when the HIV and AIDS was a huge epidemic in the 90s. And it was really to showcase what was going on in that time period with kids and explaining it's serious out here. People are giving diseases now. And that was because of that time period. You understand what I'm saying? Sorry, guys. She said Selena had no clue her whole phone was hooked up to mine, so anything she did, I could see. Ooh, I need something like that. I was and she messed up getting another Yahoo, but didn't succeed. I've experienced that where my kids make multiple Google accounts or Gmail accounts. I think it depends on the child, and I was okay with Instagram and things while my sister was out here doing the most. Overall, parents need to give kids the attention they deserve. I agree.
And so Cuties touched on that topic as well, because
yes, it did.
Angelica's parents, they both work. She said, I never see my parents. Ami, that's the black young girl that was twerking in front of the guy. Her mom was wrapped up with the fact that her husband was taking on a second wife, so she wasn't able to be in tune with her child because of her cultural focuses. So that was a big one for me right there too. Like, we need to focus on our a little bit more.
Yeah. I agree. That was like one of the things that helped me understand too, that a lot of kids out here don't have the same housing situation. Some kids are, by themselves all the time. They have a single parent who works either second or third shift because it makes more money. And then there's also kids out here who are forced into like a cultural or religious tradition, and they have to follow by that, and then they see other kids experiencing other things. So yeah, it was an eye-opener on that one, how kids didn't really get a whole lot of attention, and the fact that those girls were getting the lack of attention is what sparked the whole scenario of what's happening. I seen that one, and Selena has seen these movies with me. Yeah. See, I remember watching that one movie when I was a kid too, like, and that's something that it just popped up in my head, and it's crazy how like it was just like sad. There's another movie that's out now, and it's about a girl who basically, took a nude picture or a picture with her underwear and stuff, and he sent it to a guy, and he ended up blackmailing her to send more, and when she decided not to, he exposed her to the whole school.
I think that was based on a true story as well.
Yeah, it is based on a true story. There's actually a documentary about it, and I've watched it. It's actually on YouTube if you guys want to look it up. It was another case where a girl, same thing happened to her, and she ended up committing suicide a couple months after the incident happened.
There's one on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on there, but it talks about this as well. And I do remember seeing that, where the girl did commit suicide, and that they were going to court, and just how everyone shunned the family. Everyone shunned the family for what the young girl did, but didn't, and I think there was like a sex scene, not in the movie, but like there was like a sex video that was leaked.
Yeah.
That's if I remember it correctly.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey, Kiva.
But it was all stuff kids were doing. Right, right. And that's the whole point. Like that's the basically the narrative of this live is the fact that these are kids. You know what I mean? These are not 17 and 18-year-olds. No, these are like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds who are participating in these things. And if you really think about it, 10, 11, and 12, that's like fifth and sixth grade. Like fifth grade, you barely understand the concept of sex. You barely understand the concept of being sexual. Sixth, seventh grade, maybe possibly ninth grade, because we all know girls are going through puberty sooner than later. And it's just now like hitting them. And it's just crazy how, nowadays this is what the narrative is about, our young girls. And I feel like, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like this stems from child abuse or trauma, or like somebody else said, the lack of attention in the household. It could be a wide variety of things, but I feel like it's something that we don't talk about. And it's either we do talk about it and we go and tell somebody else the situation as if it's gossip or degrading somebody or talking shit. Like we don't have a support system within a community of women to where we can have these conversations and be like, you're not wrong for feeling like shit, or you're not wrong for what's going on in your situation with your child, with your daughter, or with your son. Because like I said, it's a lot of single moms out here that really don't have the support that they need when situations like this come up.
And so for me, growing up, I know I started young only because of what happened to me when I was young. It was kind of like, because only Black child in my family. Mine was very racist. They've settled down with a lot of old, but that because of the abuse I was already experiencing from the family, I was more exposed and disposed of. So it made it easy for my abuser to abuse me, which in return, like I acted out from like 14 to 15, and that's how I got, pregnant with my oldest child. There's a lack of accountability within my family, but for me, I had to take some accountability myself and say, you know what? I forgive them. I'm staying away from them. I'm moving on with my life. And I make sure that I'm in here with my kids. Now, does things get past me? Obviously, it has gotten past me, but it's that accountability and real conversations I have to have with myself as a woman, as a mother, and with my child. Like, what's going on, sis? Like, is there something you want to tell me for you to be doing this or whatever it is you're doing?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Yvonne. We as parents need to be as open as possible with our children, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, and we need to actually be there for them. I'm open with my kids to the point where I share too much. So I feel like I don't understand why it's difficult for it to be reciprocated in a sense. Now it's not. I ain't gonna lie. Now it's not, because I had to, even, I guess for me, it was like I had to constantly repeat it. And then on top of it, I had to give them, like, make them feel comfortable in themselves to be like, it's okay to put up boundaries. It's okay to demand respect and to a limit, or to a point to where you can be yourself and you don't have to hide who you are as a person. But as your parents, I feel like to make sure that you're safe and to make sure that everybody else in the household is safe, that I have to put up some rules so that there's no issues with, somebody getting hurt, somebody getting kidnapped, something like whatever the case may be, especially when it comes to social media and chat rooms and these I don't know what they're called, forums, you know what I mean, where people are able to meet other people. There's Facebook groups, Snapchat. So I feel like it's something that we need to, say it's okay. It's okay to be open with your child. It's okay to be, share them some things that, you don't think they should know or understand, but you'll be surprised to find out that they know all about it, but they'll have more questions because they've only heard about it, if that makes sense. Uh-oh. I don't know what happened to Madeline. Um, I agree with you. I feel like we should be able to be uncomfortable and open like that in the sense to where um, our kids can be like, okay, I can come back and I can tell you some things or ask you some questions about what I've heard or what I've seen. That movie is called Girl Positive, when she found out that she had HIV. Yes, I watched a lot of Lifetime movies too, and I enjoy them, especially with Andrea. Andrea watches with me, so she understands like the whole concept of don't talk to strangers on social media, don't talk to strangers in the streets. She's like, I ain't doing it. I ain't going there. Um, the movie about the young girl with the syphilis is called She's Too Young. I'm here listening while writing. Hey everyone, coming in. I watched it with my girls. The movie had an underlying issues, didn't have anything to do with dancing to me. I agree. I feel like the dancing was what seemed to be over saturated or played out. Because I feel like secretly, if you think about it, I feel like people that were against it, and I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying before the movie even came out and it was already bashing the movie, I feel like those people didn't want people to be aware of what's really going on in today's society. Oh, it's okay. I grew up being a cheerleader and always wanted Selena to be one as well. While the outfits are too much now, they show way too much, and just because everyone is doing it doesn't make it okay. I agree. And that was where I made a mistake when it came to giving the phones, because everybody else was doing it. So I felt like I should do it, and you know what I mean? So I agree. But no one is asking where they're learning this stuff from. And you know what? That is true. I believe majority of it is taught at home. And that's why I said, like, I think a lot of it has to do with trauma and child abuse or sexual abuse at the home. Um, that's either going on inside the house or it's happened at like an after school program at school, whatever, family member's house or something like that. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I don't know what happened to her. She'll be back though. Selena told me she didn't want to hear no, and I didn't want to get in trouble. And didn't want to get in trouble. I told her it's better to get in trouble than get yourself in a situation you can't get out of. That's correct. I agree. My kids have said before that they would like to. They feel like they don't have to do anything. They feel like they don't have to do any chores. They don't have to do have any responsibility. Be nice to each other. And I think it's more so because, like, with me and social media management and being on YouTube and all that, they feel like because they see me working 8 to 16 hours a day, that this is normal. But I told them, I said, it's not normal. Like, I don't work a normal job. But it took a while for them to understand, because when I stopped working so much, they realized, or with the whole COVID situation, they realized how funds like weren't the same. And then they're like, oh, mom does need the laptop. Mom does need to work. Things are so different nowadays. I remember getting our kids cell phones in middle school, but that was a long time ago. My kids are adults, 34 and 31. Yeah, see, by that time, when your kids were old enough, like in middle school, I was already in high school by that time. Our parents also have to remember when our children go out and do things they know is wrong, always remember they have their own feelings or exactly, Sabrina. And that's the thing that I told my kids. I said that, it's okay. I mean, I've talked to you about it. I explained to you the risk. I explained to you what can and cannot happen if you go through with it, whether if it's sex, whether if it's drugs, whether if it's alcohol. whether if it's stealing, whether if it's, whatever the case may be, whether if you get in a fight, whether if you get involved or do robbery or something like that, whatever the case may be, I said, you have a choice in that moment to decide what you're going to do. And if you choose to go with it, you have to understand there's going to be consequences. And depending on those consequences, I do not want you to feel like you cannot call me if you feel uncomfortable or scared shitless. Like, and if that's the case, and if you do call me, you're not going to get asked a million and one questions. I'm going to be there. I'm going to make sure that you're okay. As long as you're okay, I don't want to, if you don't want to talk about it in that moment, I'm not going to be sitting there screaming in your face, cussing you out and all that. I will pick you up, go home, and then when you're ready, you'll talk to me about it. And that's something that I have tried to explain to my kids, and that's something I had to actually detach myself, because once you give that to your kids and open that door, you have, as a parent, you cannot just like constantly berate them over and over again about the same things they do. At that point, it becomes you made your choice, you have your consequences, and that's the end of it. Oh, it's okay, Kiva. Hey, Antoinette. Right, exactly, Yvonne. Like I tell my kids now, like, you can't go down the street because they shoot around here, and we do have sex offenders in the neighborhood that don't live too far from where I'm at. So when I tell them that they have to stay out front and then they choose to go other places, you think they listen? No, they go down the street. They go across the street. They play in the street, and I tell them, don't do that. Um, Selena felt like we made her do too much. I had to tell her she only cleans what she makes a mess: her room, her bathroom, and her pets. I told her I don't make you cook or clean your room. Right, that's what I be saying. And my kids say the same thing. They say I don't like, I make them clean too much, and I'm like, y'all don't do barely anything. Like, y'all clean the kitchen because when I cook, you know, I clean up as I go, but then after the fact, like the dining room table is a mess. There's food all over the floor. That's your mess. You can clean up your mess. The bathroom, same thing. It's mostly the shower and the toilet. Like, everything else, I'll do myself. And 9 out of 10, I have to do the shower myself and the toilet sometimes. So I really don't make them do a whole lot. It seems like it's a lot because, in certain areas they destroy things, and I feel like you need to clean up after yourself. All right, no problem, Madeline. Um, Kids don't understand they'll be cleaning until they die. Exactly, kids will be cleaning all the way until they dead, and I be trying to tell them that. I'm like, even when you move out and you don't have to live under my rules, you still have to clean, because otherwise you just gonna have, your house is gonna be nasty, and I'm not coming over. I'm actually gonna call the cops for wellness checks. Hey everyone, coming in. So basically the conversation that we're having is based off of the unpopular opinion on cuties, because I feel like it's a conversation that we need to have as moms. It's a conversation that we need to talk about, and that's something that me and Madeline wanted to. Madeline came off, something that happened with her internet, but those that came in, did you watch the movie? And if you did not, why not? That was the question in the beginning. Right. They clean it until they die. They don't get it until they're on their own, get their own home. That's true. I feel like my kids, I think the only two, I'll say three, which is Andrea, Journey, and Araya will be my clean kids, and I'm gonna visit them. But the other two, I don't know. Because they usually say by the time kids are like 10 or 11, they are who they are, and like who they say they want to be when they grow up, that's who they really want to be. And you as the parent need to constantly enforce it, or not enforce it, but like encourage it and support them in what it is that they constantly say that they want to be, and their personalities, what they like, what they don't dislike. Um, so they say like around that time is basically that's who your child is going to be for the rest of their lives. So if they have little quirks or pet peeves, that's gonna be there forever. So I gotta go back up because I wanna. So I wanna go back to this because she was asking like, so where do you guys think they're learning from like all this stuff? Like, what do you think they're learning about oral sex? Where do you think they're learning about um twerking and taking sexual and sensual pictures, posting them with other people? What do you guys think they're learning it from? I also think it's different. Like older moms and younger moms have a different outlook on the opinion. Actually, a lot of um moms on my timeline I went to high school with on Facebook, and I feel like a lot of them um are against the movie. Like they just like, and if you have a difference of opinion, then you're a pedophile to them. Oh, she's back.
Sorry, everyone.
Games, friends, TV, movies. My question was is where what do you think where these kids are getting all this stuff at? Like where are they learning this stuff at? Um because I personally can't really say 100% it's social media. You know what I mean? I can't really say it's 100% social media that these kids are learning it from. And one of them was like one of the things that I said was that they're learning it at home. Um, you know, that's the main place that they're learning it from. Films like Kids. Oh, I keep hitting the wrong one. Um, Instagram, TikTok, TV, friends who have gone through ish. I learned everything bad from close friends growing up, but it depends on the child if they do it. That's true. And that's where I said, like, I feel like it's not really coming from social media. It may not necessarily be something that's at home, but another friend's home, another family member's
Mm-hmm.
home, and how they're going experiencing. Because just because you have, um, you know, depending on what your neighborhood is like, just because of how you raised your kids doesn't mean that the next household is going to raise their kids the same way. And same thing within family members, like um, just because how my household was right, my how I grew up didn't mean that my cousins grew up the same way as I did. So I feel like I agree with that. I feel like it's more so, the friends that they go to school with or the people they hang out with the most. Because if you think about it, a lot of our kids do things just to fit in. And I'm saying that for like my kids too, because I noticed that the switch didn't happen for mine until we moved up here and they started going to school out here. And I'm gonna tell you guys this, like I caught my daughter doing something and I called three of the parents, and one parent was the only one that said, I didn't know that this was going on. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna deal with it. The other two moms, they told me I need to mind my business and don't worry about what's going on in their house. And then they just hung up on me, like point blank. One of those girls actually has a child. She's 14, and she told my daughter um, it was fine that she had a child, and her mom takes care of the baby, and she just gets more welfare benefits because of it. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, no, I don't want you learning things like that because that's not true. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you thinking that just because you get pregnant, I'm going to be okay with it. I'm going to raise the baby and we're going to keep getting welfare. Like that's not true. Um, so that bothered me. And that was just like one strike on you know, why I didn't want her to no longer be around, like have her friends around. That was another like strike of, oh, I don't want her at the school anymore. Another one was she was skipping school, she was skipping class, um, drinking, hanging out with other friends at somebody else's house. And that was the mom that didn't know that her daughter was doing this stuff because she worked 2 jobs, first and second shift, so she was never home. So she didn't know what her daughter was doing. She didn't know what her daughter was going out doing. My daughter was looking at her and her dynamics as if that was goals. The
I
girl
think
too.
the babies, I think these girls are fascinated with love. Because they one thing I noticed, and I'm sorry
Uh-huh.
for cutting you off, Vicky.
No, no,
One
no, no, no.
thing One thing that I've noticed, especially working in the correctional field, is that is the easiest, not babies, but the fact that these children are so fascinated with being isolated and being alone, that predators prey on that, and they prey on
Mhm,
single mothers because that,
mhm.
like, what else could they have endless access to? You're always at work, you're never home, so you're not paying attention to your child. And we as mothers, we have a sense of security with our children because, like Vicky, I had a situation that occurred with my daughter, and it completely threw me off balance. Like, it really messed with me mentally. I could not sleep, I could not eat. And I'm thinking, like, where did I go wrong? Like, we moved to a bigger house, and this happened after we moved. So, for like any naysayer, like, well, y'all were living with your mother-in-law, like she probably did. My daughter's always had her own room. Like, prior to everything that happened to me, she's always had her own. So for me, I took it as like a personal slight. Like, why are you so fascinated
Yeah.
with what it is that you're doing? But it's a lot of these kids. And like Vicky, I exposed a lot of these kids in a group, in this women's group that I'm in. And every mother was like, not my child, not my child. And I'm
Mhm.
like, girl, our kids go but to 10 high schools in this state, well, in this city. So, like, come on now, it ain't just my child. I'm letting
Right.
y'all know because these predators, they're out here, they're looking, they're lurking, and they're watching. And I hear things. Well, rather, I heard things. And I'm just
Or
trying to bring it
reading,
to light.
or you reading in a text message or whatever the case may be. And I've learned that my daughter was using Snapchat because she caught on to me reading her messages and stuff like that. And I had to block it because I'm like, oh no, I know how Snapchat works. No, not happening.
And I didn't know how Snapchat worked. I did not know about the secret file that you can protect with a
Uh-huh.
password. Like, I didn't know about that until I'm going through her phone. I'm like, well, what is this? And then I'm like, damn, did I really want to find it? Because I was comfortable in my little security bubble of not knowing.
Yeah.
And that's when my little world came crumbling down.
Yeah, for me it was like I thought it for me it felt like I thought my who my kid was, and I'm not just her, I'm talking about all of them because this
Hmm.
all happened at the same time. And it was like I said in my one live, I was like, do not have kids, and if you do, like, I'm need back to back, because when a teenage year comes, then it's like bam 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 bam. But for me it was like all my kids, like at the same time, I was like, I thought I knew you, but I don't know you. Like, who
Hmm.
is this person? Like, I'm not mad. Like, don't think I'm upset about it. I just don't like the sneakiness. I don't like the lies. I don't like,
Hmm.
all the extra attitude and all that. Like, I don't like that. However, if this is who you are, show it. Like, I'd rather know who you are than be like telling people one thing and that's not who you are, and then you feel some type of way because it's like my mom don't know shit about me. Well, bring it out. You know
Bring
what
her out. Like, let's talk, sis. Like,
I'm saying? Right.
let's
Which
have
is
this
why
conversation.
Madera's family says she wants her daughter to invite her friends so that we can get to know them. Right. I agree. So my one daughter, she invited one friend over and she basically gave me a rundown of there was the girl with the mom who was like, this is not supposed to be happening. I'm cutting this out. It's a
Hmm.
wrap. She even moved and set up a whole different, ball
Oh,
game. Like,
wow.
her mom was not with
Not
it at
having it.
all.
She was not having it at
No,
all.
she was not. Whereas the other friends, my daughter would not invite them over at all because she knew how I was and how I was not for, like, I had no problem with certain conversations, But once it gets to the point where you want to act on these conversations, then I have a problem with it, because I don't want that I don't want people to think that it's okay or I condone something, and that's not the case. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, and I also wanted to know I wanted to know their parents. I wanted to know who they are. One boy came by my house once, asking for my daughter, and I was like, she can't even have a friend that's a boy. Like,
so what are you doing here?
What are you, like, why are you knocking on my door? Did she not tell you? Like, but then later on, she explained to me his situation. The kid got suspended, and his family didn't know that he was suspended. He was like one of those kids that were like constantly getting in trouble at school. And I guess he knew not to go home or tell his parents that he got suspended. And so he thought he could come to my house to chill out and hang. And when she told me that, I was like, he can't come over here. Like,
right.
Better tell his mama. You better tell his and I knew, like, and I told her, I was like, okay, because of his actions, I know his parents ain't with the shit. You know what I mean? And then I told her, I was like, you could be friends with him. That's okay. Because I know his parents ain't with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm like, but I was like, he needs to know that I ain't with it either. So he better not think over here and chilling and stuff. But like, I'm okay with you being friends with him, because I know his parents is not with that shit. Like, so that's okay. I'm okay with it.
I was speaking to a child psychologist today, because one thing that I'm getting away from is the whole creating trauma with trauma. So whenever I experience something traumatic with my children, instead of causing more trauma to them, I try to step back from it and figure out a psychological way of handling this. So I decided to seek out a psychologist and a mentor. And one thing that this guy told me, he said, because he's been dealing with foster children for, I think he said 16 years. And I said, sir, none of my kids is foster kids. They're all mine. He's like, no, Miss Parker, I know. Because growing up in the foster care system, you kind of get a little defensive when you're speaking to someone that's working in that field, and then you have a traumatic situation going on. But he applauded me, and he said, it takes a lot of courage to say that you're not going to create more trauma, because I'm not going to lie to y'all. I wanted to whoop her ass. I wanted to whoop her ass. But I also know that if I would have did that, it wouldn't have done anything but caused more damage. She would have withdrew even more, and her current situation would have been far worse, and it would have created more trauma for not only her but for the other children. So I decided to take my feelings and emotions out of it and think about it from a logical perspective, and we sought help for her. And I feel like it was the best thing I did, because one thing I am not an advocate of anymore, because back in the day, like, it was kind of like a badge where he's like, oh, I whip my daughter's ass. I wish she would. Like, every woman, unless you're like holier than thou, has done it. And I just didn't do it this time. I was like, I'm not going to do it this time. We're going to get her some help. But he told me, he said, be aware of the children that you praise so much, meaning their friends, because those are the friends they're going to stay away from, because they're going to feel like it's a competition. So if your daughter has a friend that you're like, oh my gosh, she's just such a good girl, like, you should hang with her more. We're actually creating a little insecurity in them. And I didn't even know that. Like, are you serious? I was really shocked by that. And I talk to him every week. By the way, if you have Care First insurance, it's completely free. So I was like, sir, is this free? Because this is tight for money, okay? And he's like, no, it's free. So if you have Care First insurance, it is free. I think with Medicaid, it's free as well. Definitely look into all your resources for your children, especially our daughters, because
although I got therapy for mine, so like I completely understand. Like, as soon as we did the therapy, like I was like, yo, this was like the best idea ever. It was like the best thing ever for not just her, but it was also the best thing for like all the kids. I mean, they have their moments, but I feel like since therapy, it's been so much easier. Like men take it more extreme, because that's their baby, or that's their, you know what I mean? So for them, they feel like it needs to happen now. And I'm like, it's a process. Relax. It's a process. It's going to take some time.
Right.
I had
Um,
that same conversation with my daughter today because she's a little ashamed of the situation. I said, "Girl, hello, you're 15. Where's your baby?" Okay, because here you are. All right, you're my baby. I had you at 15. So like, don't get
right,
so down on yourself because the issue is not even the issue. Reward yourself and just knowing that you're making a positive change. I'm going to help you make that change. I said, you could go out here and murder somebody. You're still my baby. I'm still going to love you. I'm still going to support you. But we're going to
right,
get you some help. You
right,
know, I'm not going to be one
exactly.
of those parents out here talking about free Ray Ray after he done murdered 50 billion people. Like, no, Ray Ray needs help.
Right,
Okay. Ray needs to stay in there in
right.
therapy, not necessarily the penitentiary, because that causes more harm than good too. And that's another topic, I guess, for another video, but that is not always the answer as well.
She said, spending the night. Yeah, see,
Hmm.
I can't, I'm not comfortable with the overnights. I'm not there yet. I'm not there. Maybe if I know more about the parents, if she has like a friend and I know their parents and I know how their parents are, and you know what I mean, like, and I've been inside the house and we've been over there, then maybe. But until then, it's just not gonna be possible for me to
Yeah.
allow my kids to do an overnight at a friend's
I
house.
made that mistake. I made that mistake and I regret it because the mother does not parent the way I parent.
Yeah,
And I'm finding out like my daughter was out until like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, yo, where were you? Mom, where were you at? Like,
right,
oh, I was doing hair at the shop. Okay, then they need to be at the shop with you,
right.
in the shop, not like running around outside the shop.
Exactly, mommy on a budget. I feel like therapy allows them to have somebody that they can go and talk to, because
Hmm.
like, sometimes they are scared to even talk to family members because they think that the family member is going to come say something to me about it. Depending on what it is, they do, but for the most part, they don't. Because certain things they know that it needs to stay between them because that was the whole point of them coming to them about it. Yes, we do need to protect our children. Um, if you don't have Medicaid or insurance, there are free counselors and therapists. Yes, there is. I believe you have to call the 411 for your state, so
I
that
didn't
way,
know that. That's actually good to know.
yeah, 411 is a good number to use for your state, and they'll give you information whether if you have insurance or not. Because they usually, when I was in Maryland, they have 411, and that was like where, if depending on your insurance or whatever it is that you needed, yeah. So I definitely recommend 401 to anybody because I can't think of numbers off the top of my head, but yeah. Our kiddos have spent the night at our babysitter's house. We have known my sister-in-law. That is all. Yep, I agree. Like the kids will spend the night at Pop Pop's house, but the most he'll let them do is stay up all night watching movies or video games. I'm not worried about that. But anywhere else, besides my sister-in-law's house, and again over there, she's just gonna let them stay up all night playing video games with her sons. So it's not like I'm worried about what's going on over there. But as far as like another parent's house, no, it's not
Mm-mm.
happening. But I do feel like the one scene, like you said, about the her dancing in front of the guy and him liking it, Annette, and then there was another one that you mentioned. If you can type it again, I would appreciate it. That part with the dancing in front of the guy, you guys will be a lot like really surprised. In my neighborhood, there's a lot of guys that will call girls out regardless of how old they are.
Oh, hell no.
I get so
Mm-mm.
many alerts on my phone for people in trucks, pickup trucks, white, I can't even talk, vans, um, who've been lurking, and kids have, reported something about that person in that car or vehicle around the schools. We get alerts about girls or boys talking about that somebody tried to grab them before or after school.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah. So in my neighborhood, we have sex offenders like bad. Like it's like every other block is a sex offender. You look it up. They have websites where you can look up if you have any sex offenders in your area. And that's the realistic how am I trying to word it? Because pregnancy brain. The reality is that a lot of girls go through that. And it doesn't really matter if you live in a nice neighborhood or not. It can be of their friend's brother or brother's friend who puts them in that predicament. You know what I mean? And that's something that makes it uncomfortable for the child. And I'm only saying that because I know people that have been through that, where they go to a friend's house and it's their cousin or it's their brother's friend, or they have a whole bunch of boys at the house and they're like, we're not letting you go until you drink this. We're not letting you go until you flash us.
So in the movie Kids, there was actually 2 scenes like that. It was the scene where they were in the pool.
Yep.
Well, really 3. The scene where they were in the pool and they started throwing the girls in the pool. Then the second scene was when the black boy was trying to force himself to kiss the little girl. And then the third scene was the end, and that's when Casper and I think her name was Jenny. She was drunk and he engaged in sex with her while she was drunk. And
yeah. So I understand why it's uncomfortable for people, but this is the reality of what kids are experiencing on a day-to-day basis. And it may not necessarily be in that sense where she was at a dance club and, she danced for the guy. But if you think about it, imagine hypothetically, because I know Madeline brought it up, but hypothetically, imagine in that scene, there was another guy there. And think about if that person wasn't there. In a lot of situations, and we see it all the time in the news where, a guy takes advantage of a girl at a college frat party and they all decide to, one guy decides to record it and they all decide to engage in a sexual act on the girl while she's drunk on the bed. But think about the context of Cuties. These are 11 and 12-year-old girls, and these girls are actually going through that. Now, doesn't happen necessarily in college. It happens now. And in some cases, like 10, 11-year-old girls, they don't have cell phones. Not everybody has cell phones. And in some situations, parents can't afford it to provide cell phones for their kids. So, it's something that we need to talk about. Like, it needs, like, I feel like it needs to, like, you need to watch it so that you can put yourself in the child's shoes, because that's the point of view of it is. It's the child's point of view. It's not an adult's point of view viewing it from that sexual way. It's really from a child's point of view of what they're experiencing.
And the peer pressures, yeah.
And the peer pressure, because the one girl, she was like pushing the other girls, to do certain things. And I know some people.
Angelica, yeah.
Yeah, seen.
Sorry, I watched it and I got the names
down. But in some scenes, like there is the peer pressure of other people, pushing them to do things that they don't want to do. And it's the same with kids. It's the same with She's Too Young. It's the same with the other Lifetime movies that we've seen or talked about. We all see it, the peer pressure. And I feel like, I hate to say it, but that's really the issue that I experienced was peer pressure with my kids, because they didn't have any of this experience before until we moved up here. And, so like when we was in Maryland, we didn't really have that issue then, but when we moved up here, then it became the issue with stealing. It became the issue of them just, ignoring the teachers and not showing up to class or skipping school or whatever the case may be, or failing at class or whatever.
But Vicky, I also think it's because of the area you were in, because I'm in Maryland as well, and you know this, but I'm in Baltimore, and they are off the goddamn hook here in Baltimore. So I feel like if y'all were in Baltimore,
why do you think we didn't move there? Why do you think we did not move there? And I'm thinking to myself now, like, we should just, and me and Leon say, we were like, we should just move to Baltimore. Like, the way things are here, we should just move to Baltimore. I'm like sitting here like, my kids can't take it. They'll get beat up every day. Only for them to come up here and still be in the mess. We should have just moved to Baltimore.
And I'm a county bounty, so I've always lived in the county my whole entire life. Like, even when I was like popping off and thought I was living and doing some things, like, no, it's nothing compared to like Baltimore City. And I'm not saying like they're the baddest city out here, but I'm like, God damn, like, can we catch a break? Like, what is going on up here? these kids are out of control. They're
Yeah.
out of control.
Yeah.
So
But
I think it's
feel
your
like,
area. The area you were in was a good area for the
it
most
was
part.
a nice area. That's why I'm like, I miss being in that area, but I'm like, it would have been better off to move to Baltimore City. Like,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm living at, like, it would have made no difference of us being in Baltimore, the shootings, the sex offenders everywhere, the crackheads, and the drunks. It would have made no difference because I'm pretty much here now.
Now it's not all of Baltimore. Like there's certain areas in Baltimore
Certain
that's
areas,
nice.
but they're more expensive.
They are more expensive, but I'm like, whew, child, it is
But
something.
yeah,
It is definitely something.
Yes, the kids need to know, and we need to talk to them about the movie. Yeah, see, I don't think the movie is meant for kids at all. Do not watch the movie with your kids. It's not like a Lifetime
Maybe
movie.
your teenager, maybe with
Yeah.
your teen, and that's just my belief. I think like if maybe with our older girls,
Yeah.
so that we can talk to them about the peer pressure, so they at least they can see an example of a real predator. Like had that man not been there, there is a potential like that little girl, and yes, it's fake, but there's real situations. There's like men out here that will rape you.
Yeah, and don't care.
Don't get. I had. You know what? I had the worst experience at the Amish market recently with Muffin. Muffin is such a. And if anyone ever watched my channel, like before I took my kids off of social media, Muffin is like really funny, and she's like kind of flirty, like in an innocent way. And this man said to me, this grown ass man said to me, "Oh my goodness, she's so beautiful. She's so sexy and flirty." I said, "Mother, you better." Like,
Right.
who are you? This is my child. I held her so tight
And
because he was watching. Like, he was really watching us. I was so scared.
I had an old friend. She used to call my boys, sexy, and that's my boyfriend or that's my husband. And I told her, like, you can't say that. You can't
cut it out because women are trifling too. Women are trifling too.
Yeah. I mean, if you have sons, don't think that they're excluded.
Especially on the males. As a matter of fact, I worked with a sexual predator. I'm not an inmate. He was a sergeant. And let me tell you about him. Like he had he was the coolest supervisor ever. Like he was like really laid back. He was so anti-sexual predator, like F them child molesters, this, that, and the third. And it was another inmate. It was a young boy. He told me, he was like, "Miss Parker, he ain't right." I said, "Well, why you say that?" And of course, I always take everything with a grain of salt because in corrections, the name of the game is manipulation. But he was actually right this time. He's like, "Yeah, because like he had me in the office and he was touching me and he's like, no one's gonna believe you." And I told him, I was like, "Yo, I will catch a murder charge in here. Like I will kill your ass." Like that's what he said. And I took it with a grain of salt. And then like when I get fired, and next thing you know, like 2 months later, I see his mug on the damn TV for raping a little boy. He went to the little boy's house, picked up the little boy, took him back to his house. Okay. A neighbor found it odd that he had a little black boy in his basement. So he just walks in the man's basement, catches him in bed with the little boy, and begged the neighbor not to call the police, told him that he could take the boy or he could have a term with the boy. Like it was so messed up. And I'm just looking like, yo, this was one of my favorite sergeants. And now he's in freaking prison for raping children. And an inmate told me that he was like this, and I didn't believe him. I did not believe him.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, I'm shocked because of that situation. I mean, I went to high school with this guy. We were cool, whatever. He was like the quiet, how they say the quiet guy. And a couple years ago, he picked up a girl on like a 2-hour delay. So she was walking. There was nobody out. You know what I mean?
Wow.
She was walking to school. He grabbed her, picked her up, took her back to his house, sexually assaulted her, and then dropped her off some random place. And this goes into like what Kiva was talking about in her live, where the wife stayed and his wife stayed.
Oh wow, no, his wife didn't stay. She was like, I'm gone. The
I know
kids are
that's right,
gone,
because I would have been gone
and
too.
he has pending charges because not only before he came back to Baltimore, he was a sheriff down in Texas. So he has like people are coming out saying things now. So it's I don't know. I'm very paranoid, that's for sure. And I'm very cautious with my children now. And so that's why so when this situation happened, it definitely triggered me and it
Yep.
and that's why I watched Cuties and I even watched Kids today against my better judgment. But it was such because even if we want to get into it, Larry Clark should be considered a pedophile if you ask me, because that whole
Right.
movie was out of line. Like
Right.
Kids was just completely out of line. And the fact that he hung out with Justin Pierce and Harmony Korine, who actually wrote the movie, there should be some eyebrows raised. And I know, Vicky, you said that you had to do research on this and that
Yeah.
they investigated him and nothing was found. But who's investigating? Like, think about it. In Hollywood, you got the Harvey Weinsteins, you
Mhm.
got the freaking R. Kelly, you got all these
Yep.
people, Epstein,
Jeffrey
like,
Epstein, yep.
right. So of course
What's
they
that
would
woman?
find nothing.
Allison something. She was on Smallville, the one actor when
Yes.
she was a part of that as well.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
like, I mean, it's like you said, like who's really investigating it? You know what
Right,
I mean?
exactly. Especially when you have law enforcement themselves, you got the commissioners and stuff in their pockets.
Hmm.
So, and it really is not to like hop on a conspiracy or anything, but there it's so deeper than what we think. And if you watch the show Hollywood on Netflix, it
Hmm.
talks about the hazing experiences in Hollywood. If you listen to any podcast, I recommend Crime Junkie and I also recommend
Yep.
The Dark Side of, because they talk about Hollywood in the first season and they talk about how Judy Garland was abused and how these grown men were exposing themselves to the 5-year old and like it's so much deeper than what we think. So we're asking them to investigate, but who's really doing the investigating? Nobody, because they're the ones, not all of them, but most of them are the ones partaking in
Hmm.
this abuse.
Yeah, I agree. And but if you think about it, like the movie will have and that was something that had me thinking too. Like if you think about it, like I watched it and I was just thinking to myself, like, this goes way deeper. Like, I mean, I'm seeing what people are saying, this is pedophilia, like somebody needs to stop this. And I'm like, who's really gonna stop it though?
And not
Like,
only that, how many times have we seen this? I mean, Bring It. I don't know. I was a big Lifetime fan until Bring It came on.
mm-hmm,
And you have to understand women of color and Black women, like we have bodies. I
mm-hmm.
used to have one before these kids, but we have bodies, okay? So you got these little 12, 13, 14-year-olds with these bodies and these curves, and they're doing these
Mm-hmm.
dances. And I admire what I think her name was Deanna was doing. I admire the fact that she was encouraging to dance, but also I feel like she was exposing them children as well. And yet she
Yeah,
had a dancing background. Let me tell you, I'm not knocking any strippers, period. Because been
right.
there, done that, got the t-shirt. Like it happened when I was younger. So,
Right.
but I also feel like some of the moves that she had these girls doing should be questionable. But we've seen this before. It's no different, in my opinion. Collars and tiaras. That little stupid meme when everyone's excited and the little white girl's like, how is that any different?
Yeah, it's not.
In my opinion.
It's not. Like I feel the same way. If you think about it, even movies that, Disney music movies, and people can say, well, it wasn't that bad. Certain things in certain movies and these TV shows on these networks.
Beauty and the Beast. I'm gonna give you a prime example.
Yep.
Stockholm syndrome. You got this. You got everyone wanting to be kidnapped. I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to be kidnapped by Joe. Like Joe was everything to me. I'm like, oh my god, he's out here killing mofo's, and like I got obsessed. I was like, oh got okay, Joe, and then he met his match and whatnot. But no, like even with these movies, you're absolutely right. Like Beauty and the Beast is Stockholm syndrome. Snow White. If you actually read the story, she's 14,
Mm-hmm.
and the prince is supposed to be 33.
Yeah.
Um,
Aladdin.
I,
It's the same thing with that one.
I didn't know about Aladdin.
Yeah, Aladdin, like the original story, he's an older guy and she's like 14 and she's supposed to get married off to like Jafar. Like in the movie, they don't
Yeah.
have it
Oh
set up
yeah,
like
that's right.
yeah, in the
Okay,
movie they
yeah.
don't have it set up like that, but in the actual
Hmm.
original story, she's actually supposed to marry Jafar and he's like 40 something. You know
Right,
what
right.
I
And what
mean?
was that teacher's name? What was that teacher's name that married that her the little boy that she raped
Oh
that
yes.
just died?
Yes, I know you're talking
Mary
about shit.
something.
Yeah, I know
Yes.
you're talking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of like cases like that. Like I've watched this one TV show. I mean, no, it's not a TV show. It's on YouTube, and it's called Crime Watch TV or something like that.
Crime
And
Watch
one of the
Daily,
teachers,
yeah.
yeah, she wanted to come out and express her side of the story, and she was like, "I'm not a pedophile. I'm not this.
You
I'm not
are.
that."
Uh-huh.
Because she was with a 17-year-old and he was a high school student, and she's like, he wanted it, but I feel like I was manipulated and played because he just wanted evidence to show with his friends and show off or whatever. And I'm like, but you knew how old he was. Like, I'm
Like
confused.
you have to use your better judgment. And I hate to say it, like certain women get away with certain things, okay? Because had it been a certain type of woman, yeah, she would be under the jail, in my opinion.
Exactly. Did you watch 13 Reasons of Why? Yes, I have.
I
I've
think I
watched some of
did.
it. I watched some of it, and some of it is hard to watch, just like Cuties, just like his. Some of it is really hard to watch because I've experienced certain situations, not to the T, but certain things in 13 Reasons of Why. And it's hard for me to watch. I don't even let my kids watch that shit. They can't watch it. Like, that's just sounds horrible to me.
There's a lot of things I try not to watch either, like especially when so I follow Michi X. I'm a big advocate for Black Lives Mattering, not necessarily the movement, because I don't support the CEO of the movement. And there's a lot
Yeah.
of things that even when she says some things, it triggers me, but it also gets me critically thinking. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the key. I want to
Yeah.
be a different type of thinker. And had I been very closed-minded, I would have not have watched this movie or kids. And I would have walked around, in my opinion, ignorant. But some
Yeah.
things do trigger me. Watching both of these movies and even watching Dance Moms from the standpoint of how critical Abby was to the children, I went through that.
Yeah.
Especially being the only Black child in a very racist family, being called the N word and being told I'm going to look like Aunt or Mama. I'm never going to mount to anything in life. Like that mentally affects you. And honestly,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I have a tough skin now. So it's like, it's
Right.
kind of hard to hurt my feelings when your own flesh and blood has
Right.
already done way
Understand.
worse. So it's like that's the best you got.
Right.
So
And that's how I feel too. Like growing up, like my grandmother, she used to say like, mean things like you're never gonna be anything, you know,
mhm.
you're just gonna be an Asian person. Like the way she was saying, she was like, you're just gonna be ching chong, um, doing nothing with your life. And I'm
Mhm.
like what the hell? No. So,
And
what do y'all
even
think?
when
Oh,
oh
sorry.
sorry.
What do you
No,
think
go
about
ahead.
parents drop off the kids off in the parking lot so they can go to Bowie? What is Bowie pool parties? What is that? I've never heard of those.
My
So
kid can't go to she can't, none of them can go to a pool party. They can't even go to the beach with family because I don't know if
yeah.
they can swim or not. I know my kids can swim, but I don't know if they can swim. And in case my kids go under, I'm gonna need you to go and get my kid.
No, that's she said no, not my kids. um personally, if I wanted my kid, like I don't see why are people having parties? Like it just blew my mind. Like, and this is the issue that we're having. That's why we're having this conversation. I
Mhm.
don't agree with that. Why are you dropping your kids off to go to a pool party?
Exactly.
And then be wondering
Exactly.
why our kids are behaving the way they are. That makes no sense.
Mhm. No sense at all.
None. um, I remember that teacher, they got a divorce and he got with the younger person. Yes, I
Oh,
remember
so he
that.
did divorce her.
He got a divorce. He did
Oh, good
divorce
for
her.
him.
Yeah, and
Good for
they
him.
ended up
He needed to.
didn't they have like two kids and then it didn't work
Yes.
out. And then they had I remember he got a divorce before she died, but then when she died, she wanted him, so he took care of her before she died.
See, that's the definition of gaslighting, if you ask me.
Well, she had him hooked since he was 15. I mean,
right.
And I guess he finally woke up and was like, I don't want this. This is not what I wanted. Like all my life.
He needed something different. He needed something a little, mature. Because she definitely was. I mean, she was mature, but she wasn't like mentally mature. She was very manipulative. Like you could see it in her interviews. If we're talking about Mary. She was just like very defensive. And again, that's the position that narcissists play. Like they always play that defensive mode. Like, what? Okay, so what, he was 13, but he wanted this. Like he pressured me to do this. No, ma'am. Like kids have innocent crushes all the time, but as you as an adult, right, like you as an adult, you don't act on it.
Right.
That's where you messed up, Mare. Like that's where you messed up. So and there are women predators. They're actually more in my opinion, they're more twisted because they have an obsession with the attention.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the child.
I agree. That's why I was like, it's one thing with these grown men and trying to be predators, but I feel like women are far worse than men because in today's society, if you think about it, it's not so much like if a boy, I know for me growing up, if a boy had sex with somebody, it was an accomplishment. If a girl did it, it was looked down upon and it was ashamed.
Woe is me. Like, ooh, you ain't lying.
Get away with it, especially if it's a babysitter, an older woman, a parent, or an aunt or a relative. It's easier for women to get away with it because they're able to. Like the kids are not going to say nothing. You know what I mean? Like the boys are not going to say nothing. And if they do, all they're going to do is say, I had sex. They're not going to say with who, how it happened. You know what I mean? And
well, I don't know. Kids got pretty explicit. I mean, he was even talking like
nowadays.
Right, like, they got pretty explicit.
Because that's what I was saying. Like that one woman, the one teacher, she wanted to come out and tell her story. And everybody is like, well, duh, you should have known he was trying to get bragging rights. Like, what the hell is wrong with you?
The kid, right?
He was sitting there from the back recording your ass. Like, come on now, be real. Like, and he's 17, and she wasn't an ugly teacher. She was pretty. You know what I mean? So he was like, I'm a bagged it, and told everybody.
Everyone.
These men love using. Right, they do, and they do.
Boosie, yes.
Okay.
Girl, let me tell you something. And I don't know if you heard the Lil Wayne
story. Yes, I've heard of that. Yes.
Okay, and he was talking about how he had sex at 11 and how Birdman. Let me tell you something. Birdman is perverted. Okay, like he is perverted. The fact that I think they all broke him in.
I wouldn't be surprised. I know that Justin Bieber and Little Bow Wow, he's not Little Bow Wow no more. But I know that they both have said that, whoever their management or whoever's involved in their label and on their team, by the time before they were even like 16, 14, even Chris Brown, they said that
the Coreys. Remember the Corey Feldman and the other one, Heyman?
They said that, they had, strippers or prostitutes coming in and that's how they lost their virginity. And they were child stars. As soon as they got into the industry and they blew up and they had the money, they automatically lost their virginity before they even hit 18, before they even hit 17. And it's sad. And like you said, with Corey, that's kind of like what a lot of people, like they came in and they was like that, oh, you're blowing up and parties and stuff like that. A lot of people came out and said that they were sexually abused in the industry. I feel like the music industry and the entertainment industry, when it comes to boys, they don't look at it the same way. Usher too.
No.
I heard about Usher before.
I didn't hear about Usher.
Yeah, Usher, he came in at 13, 14. And he said it before too. He said, what is his name? Jermaine Dupri. Yeah. Not like he bought women in for him to be sexually active with women. But yeah, I believe it's I believe in the industry, it's sexist as well, and same as like in society in general. If a girl loses her virginity, it's shamed upon. But then when a boy does it, and it doesn't matter if it's an older woman or not, it's they get props for it, and it's kind of sad.
So
B2K.
my baby father, my oldest's father, I was 15, he was 21.
Oh wow.
So yeah. But nobody looked at him sideways. They looked at me like, oh girl, she's fast.
Mm-hmm.
She's a little hoe. She's this and she's that. And I'm like, oh, okay. I got asked to step down from ministry. I wasn't allowed, to sit in a certain area in the church. I had to sit in the back of the church. So yeah, like it was a lot of shame there. It was a lot of shame. I still had the
Wow.
baby. Like I was like, okay, it is what it is. I had a
Right.
baby. I won't be the first and I won't be the last.
Right.
So, but he was 21. And after talking to his baby mother, who because he had a 2-year-old son, she told me that she's like, there's something wrong with him. Like he just always has been attracted to young girls for some reason. So now to put it in, just to give a little perspective, I was 15 turning 16.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Had Denia when I was 16. But I was pregnant at 15, like later in the months, because I had her in June. So I gave birth at 16 because I had to turn 16 in December. Christmas is when I turned 16. So, but it is
Right.
what it is. It's still statutory rape.
Right.
Whether I was willing or not, it still is what it is.
Right. It is. I forgot what I was gonna say. Dang it. But
Sorry,
you're right.
Nikki.
Mommy on the budget in the Black community, it's never the men's fault, and it doesn't matter if it's like a relative that's older, whether if it's somebody that you knew from the church or whatever the case may be. It's never the men's fault, and that's kind of what I got from Cuties when that situation. You know what I mean, in the dance, because it was like she shouldn't have been there. You know what I mean? Like she shouldn't have been there. She shouldn't have done that. So like that's kind of what I got from that too. It was like, yes, she shouldn't have been in there, but at the same time, he was wrong for telling her to dance.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or telling her, you're not leaving here until, like he was wrong for that. And that's something that a lot of times, like we always put the blame on the child, but if you think about it, it's really the adult. The adult should be making an example. The adult should have been sitting there like, you shouldn't be here, go home, or I'm going to tell your parents. Like, and that's how it used to be back in the day for some things, you know what I mean? Because like I said, even back then, it was similar situation. Kids be in a situation and an adult will do things like, in that situation, or they would, rape them or, be like, oh, I think you're pretty, or touch them inappropriately. So it's always been like this. It's always been like that all the time. And it's sickening.
All the way back to slavery.
Right.
So
right. And that's why I said, like, even then, like, if you think about it, back in slavery, white women would do it to the young black boys. And they would scream.
And vice versa. Yep.
Yeah.
And vice versa. The white men with the black women. So
it's been happening forever, but I think we need to be uncomfortable and have these kind of conversations. I feel like Cuties, if you dismiss the dancing, the angles of the dancing, you dismiss the because those weren't that long. It's not like it was the whole movie. Like it wasn't.
Right.
Those were like maybe 3 to 5 minutes, not even. And the movie's about an hour and 45 minutes. So it's really not that long of a movie. I feel like everybody should watch it and look at it from an open-minded perspective. If you have older
to gain the insight, definitely gain the insight.
Yeah, because it's a lot more deeper than a lot of people think it is. It touches on sex, it touches on drugs, it touches on pedophilia from older men, it touches on inappropriate situations with boys, it touches on social media, it touches on cultural traditions within different families. It also touches on parenting, and there was more, but I can't think of it.
And I also think as a masses, like in general, we all have to learn how to think for ourselves and to
Yeah.
not be afraid to go against the grain, because that was the biggest thing that I've noticed.
Mhm.
Like, to the point where I'm on social media and I'm watching people call people pedophiles for saying, no, 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 I'm not saying that I support the dancing. I support that. I support the message. So I think if we get away from the whole judgmental aspect and not being afraid to go against the grain, I feel like we'll have critical thinkers, and we'll
Yeah.
be able to see past, one, the government's bullcrap. Two, we'll be better equipped to, help our children. And we can still, as women, we can still be independent, but there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, I'm married, I want a family, I want a husband, I want it all. Because I feel like a lot of women get judged when they say, I want to stay home. I know when I say I'm a stay-at-home wife, they're like, oh, so you don't work, you don't have help, what are you on welfare, this, that, and the third? And I'm like, first of all, like, I don't gotta explain this to you, but second of all,
Right.
like, the fact that we immediately think that is a
Yeah.
problem.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Yeah.
Black women are allowed to stay home and take care of their children. We are
Right.
allowed. We're allowed to do
Right.
that.
And it's the
We
same for
are
men.
allowed.
I feel like men should be also able to stay home, because I know there's a lot of
Oh
family, because
yeah.
that's something that Leon looked into, where there's a lot of dads that don't work, and it's just
Mhm.
easier and or financially smarter for the wife to work and the dad stay
Right.
home. So I feel like that should be it as well. But we've been on here for about an hour and a
I
half.
know. It was a good conversation. Thank
It
you
was
guys
a
for
good
all chiming
conversation.
in.
We need to have more conversations like this, because I feel like as a parent we need to, have discussions. I mean, there is no right or wrong answer. You may not have to agree with what we said. Even if we don't agree with what you guys said or anything like that, it's just an open discussion to talk between moms. Because actually I think, like, for me, it helps me understand from another perspective, because maybe you might have something that I don't, like, some secret sauce that I don't know
Right.
about. You know what I
Right.
mean? So I
Right.
mean, I feel like it's good that we have these conversations. Yeah, it was a good talk. I liked it. It was fun.
And Vicky, thank you for having me on your platform. I really
No
appreciate
problem.
it.
If you guys have any questions about, like, FMLA, or how to go about dealing with FMLA or suing your job, or if you got let go in a discriminative way, definitely go check out Madeline. She has great topics and discussions about other things besides that. But if you're really, like, somebody that needs help or don't know which direction to go, she can give you information about that, because she went through something similar. And she won her case. So, woohoo!
Long story short, I won.
So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the live. Give it a thumbs up on the way out, and I'll see y'all in the next video. I'm about to upload it as soon as I get off of here. So be on the lookout for another video. Bye, guys.
Thank y'all.